Oh, so, Assalamu alaikum. Hopefully you can see my screen okay. A huge welcome to everybody joining. For many of you out of school or the end of school. So thank you for giving us a little bit of your time today to join us for AI Safety, AI Smarts with Dr. Jamiylah Jones, founder and CEO of Creative Transformation. So welcome. And while you're hearing my little introduction, please put where your name, your school, where you're from in the chat. It's great to know all these different where people are zooming in from. We got New York, Texas, Maryland, mashallah. Um, and the Islamic School League of America. We are connecting Islamic school professionals to share knowledge, ideas, and resources for over 25 years. We represent over 420 full-time Islamic schools, 100,000 Muslim students, 9,000 educational professionals. Research, resources, and relationships. So if you're first time with ISLA, welcome. If you're a seasoned ISLA professional, welcome also. We have many resources to share with you. A little bit about Dr. Jamiylah Jones. She's an AI and education expert. She's an educational leader who helps schools implement AI in ways that strengthen teaching, leadership, and student learning. She works with educators worldwide to redesign instruction, build student literacy, build student AI literacy, and develop leadership strategies that align emerging technologies with educational values. She is a creator of the AI-powered Teaching and AI for Educator Leader Success courses, the K-12 Teaching AI with Confidence curriculum series, and the AI platforms Task Fixer AI and ILM Fusion. Through training, resource, and research, Dr. Jones helps schools move beyond reactive responses to AI and build responsible, sustainable systems for the future of education, alhamdulillah. And still got me, just a couple of our upcoming events you may be interested in. We will be having a school members information session on June 21st. For those of you who are with a school that's a ISLA school member, we encourage you to attend and learn more about the membership, some of the benefits and perks available for you. And if you're not yet a member and want to know why, also join us. So jot that in the chat. And then we will also be, as I mentioned to somebody before we started, we'll be partnering with Dr. Jamiylah for a PLC in July on building your school's AI vision. It's a 5-week course. We do have an early bird discount for $150 off. Register by June 22nd. So for those of you or your school want to learn more information, that's a great opportunity. Probably before school starts. In most places, I don't know if anybody actually starts in July. So this is before school starts. Great way to get a leg up on next school year. And then in August, we'll be partnering with Care Collective for youth mental health first aid from an Islamic perspective. Really, if you haven't had this training, really vital, especially for educators, community members, anybody who deals with people, particularly kids, really helpful in understanding how to orient yourself and be more aware when you see children perhaps in distress. Some warning signals, a really important course. This will be offering it for the 3rd time this summer with Dr. Ali Syed, a community psychiatrist. So please check that out, share with friends. And then, of course, our professional development week, August 3rd through 7th, one whole week, 10 sessions staggered over 5 days on everything that you need to know to start out the school year strongly. So if your school doesn't already have professional development planned, you need a refresher on anything, you're a new teacher, strongly encourage you to attend, to sign up. It's very affordable rate because it's really, we're trying to do this for the benefit of the community. We want all your staff, all your colleagues to attend as low price as possible. So check it out. And then for the fall, especially for the school leaders here in the room, we will be having our annual leadership retreat again at the DNet Center of America in Maryland. There's a couple people in Maryland here, so please, in your neighborhood, and that'll be December 4th through 6th, 2026. There's a QR code and it is available for registration, but more details are forthcoming. And please follow us on social media. All sorts of stuff happening. We got Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We have WhatsApp, YouTube. We also have our IECN listserv with email lists. You know, it sounds old school today, but people are doing listservs. So we have one, a great opportunity to just keep in touch with other educators. And a dua. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu anna la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka
Stuck for the love of
Astaghfirullah. Like, thank you. Obviously not Arabic speakers, so apologies. Um, but yes, we again set the intention. We're here to learn each other, learn from Dr. Jamila, and we really hope this will be a benefit. So without further ado, I will stop sharing and I will let Dr. Jamila go.
All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon. I hope it's not good morning for anyone around the world. I'm happy to see all the schools that have come in. I see someone's here from Egypt. I see Texas. And I want to apologize a little bit because I know the southern states are not in school right now. So I want to thank you for taking the time on your summer break to join us. I know there's a lot of the schools are still, in the north or the northeast or the west coast, and they're still in school to the end of June. But a special thank you to those of you who are not in school right now for taking the time to learn. So I know that Sister Lisa, and thank you for the introduction. I know she gave you a lot of the work that I've been doing, but I just want to tell you why I'm doing this work. I believe as Muslims that we need to be the best in everything. And I believe that Allah gave us an opportunity to use our human intellect to be in control and utilize artificial intelligence for our benefit. And 2 years ago, I tried to retire, and Allah didn't let me. And while I just thought I would just, go out the rest of my days, just maybe consulting with schools and helping teachers and helping school leaders, I saw the benefit of AI. As I was leaving, I saw that AI was coming in, and I knew it was going to be a game changer. And I was thinking to myself, how can I help teachers? How can I help school leaders? And I just woke up one morning and I set out on the path of how I was going to help the world of education um, leverage AI to do the good work that they need to do for students and the good work that we need to do for schools. And alhamdulillah, over the past year and a half, I've been working with schools, getting really good information about where teachers are, what the students are doing, what leaders need. And then I kind of put together a package of a bunch of things and called it an ecosystem. But before we even talk about an ecosystem, we need to really think about AI, what it's doing in our school, and what are we experiencing. And I think that it's moving so fast and no one is here to train teachers and no one is here to train school leaders. So we're kind of just operating in silos. Some are using it really well, some are using it for not good things. But I want us to be the leaders as Muslims and what we're doing with AI in our schools. So that's just my spiel about what my thoughts are and the work that I'm doing. So I'm going to start a slideshow and just give me a second because I got to share a screen. So I want to know, can everyone see the slide deck? All right, because now I can't see this, I can't see as much.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna
yes,
try to
we
go back
can.
and forth. All right, so I'm not gonna, there's no need for me to do an introduction. Sister Lisa did an excellent one for me. So again, over the 90 minutes, I'm gonna talk to you about what AI is doing in schools, the safety risks that every Islamic school is now facing, and three concrete safeguards that you can put in place this summer that you can open up your 26-27 school year with. So are we ready? Say ready in the chat. All right. So AI, it's in your schools, whether you invited it or not. Your students are using it, whether they're using it responsibly, irresponsibly, they are using it. Your teachers or the teachers who are here, you're probably experimenting with it. But parents are talking about it at dinner, and I'm quite sure your boards are probably starting to ask questions about it. And so the leaders are kind of playing around with it and no one's really sure. And it's not a failure. I don't want you to think of this as a failure because this is all new. But the reality of leading in 2026 is going to be, and further, is going to be around AI. And the schools, I believe that get it clear in the next 2 months are going to lead the rest of their school year ahead. And the ones who are waiting until September, October, November, they're going to be behind and they're going to stay behind. So I want us to figure out what's going on and then how we're going to deal with it and how we're going to move forward with it. So here is Al Hidayah Academy. Now, this is a K through 12 Islamic school. It has about 350 students. And I want to highlight three specific members, staff members at Al Hidayah, who's going to anchor the stories that we're going to talk about this evening. So there's Sister Fatima. She teaches upper school humanities and she is brilliant in her class. But AI has kind of thrown her off guard because she's accustomed to students writing their essays. She's able to see the strengths and weaknesses of her students. But recently, she's seeing some kind of some disconnect. Kids were going from writing, on a ninth grade level, 10th grade level to now probably college level. Brother Yusuf is the middle school principal, and he's in his late 30s, and he is tech savvy, and he is also in charge of students with disabilities. And he's leading and using AI, but he doesn't have a really good system. And we'll talk about his situation a little bit later. And then there's Sister Aisha. She is the curriculum developer. So she's seeing teachers work, she's seeing school leaders work, she's seeing students work. So she has a bigger global picture of what's happening and the unevenness that she's seeing in classrooms. And so what's happening at Al Hidayah is happening throughout schools across the country and across the world. But by the end of tonight, inshallah, you're going to know what to do about it at your own individual school. So before we go any further, I want to hear from you guys. In the chat, can you put just a question that you may have that you're struggling with when it comes to AI? Just one question or one thought. I just want to hear from you before we get started, because I'm hoping if we can surface this, maybe through my presentation, it answers some of those questions. But if not, we can save those questions for the end. Sister Lisa, I'm going to ask if you can share because I can't see the chat right now.
Sure. We have how can I improve my classroom with AI? How to
Okay.
make it productive and useful for the students.
Okay.
I think everybody's a little bit end of the day, brain cells a little.
Okay, no, and that's fine. And then as we go through the session, if something resonates with you, please feel free to put it in the chat. You may not have the question right now, and maybe you're just trying to, see what's happening, but think about this because I am going to push you to think and to reflect on what is really happening in your schools.
So we do have a couple more if you want to hear them or if you
Got
want
it.
to.
Yes.
So we have how can we use AI tools to analyze data for trends?
Okay.
What about the school-wide implementation plan? How can I add more AI-generated work without parents being worried about their children's privacy? How do I use it in a productive way? What's a tool?
All right.
Um, let me see, there's a couple of them. How do I manage the students' use of AI? For older students, how do we help them navigate AI in an ethical manner?
Mhm.
And what are the benefits and challenges of AI in education?
All
What are
right.
the best AI platforms to use to teach kids how to use AI in a correct manner?
Okay. All right. Got it.
How can I help
Inshallah.
my
Some of
educators
them
use
are going to
AI?
be answered, inshallah, through the presentation. And then I can take questions, not any problems at the end, inshallah. All right. So I want us to talk about what we actually see happening in schools. What's visibly happening with AI in schools? And so the most common pattern is this. Students, they're using AI for their assignments and their tasks. And what comes back to teachers are probably really polished, answers. They usually typically from day to day don't usually give answers like that, but probably that's what you're seeing now. The arguments are too structured, the vocabulary is sophisticated, and teachers at this point in time probably can't tell if students are really learning anymore because they're probably feeding it through an AI detector and it's probably flagging it as cheating. And the kid didn't go up 2 or 3 reading levels in 6 weeks. So you're probably seeing kids use it irresponsibly. And then there's also an uneven use in schools among staff members, where some teachers they know how to use it and they'll get on and they'll get their lesson plans. You'll see some teachers they're a little bit more sophisticated and they'll use it to differentiate. They'll say, okay, well, I want kids to read this prompt, but I have 2 kids who are on a fourth grade reading level. I have 6 that are on a sixth grade reading level, and I have a few that's a ninth grade level. How can I take that and, maybe differentiate it so kids can get the gist of it and it's on their reading level? So you may have some teachers that may be utilizing that. You may have some teachers that just use it to communicate with parents, or use it for report card comments. Some are, using it for grading. And then you have a group out there that don't want to even acknowledge that is there. So you have all of that going on in a school. And when kids go from class to class, they see it as well. Um, the same thing is also happening even with leadership, where some leaders, they use it for everything. They use it for communicating. They use it for um, 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 making calendars. They use it, for everything. And then you have a group that maybe, I know how to, I see it, I'm playing with it, but I don't know how to utilize it for my specific workflow. And then again, you have that other group that won't even acknowledge that exists. But then here's the things that you don't see. So we talked about what we see, and here's what you don't see. You don't see that kids are using it. And then what they're doing, they're going to AI, they're putting in the assignments or the task that the teacher gave, and then they're getting the output and then they're writing it by hand. So when you get it, you're like, oh, the student did it because it's handwritten. So kids are going behind our backs, getting the output and then writing it on paper. They are summarizing assignments. Let's say, you're reading a novel and then you give them the homework to go home and read pages 1 to 100. Instead of going home and reading the 100 pages, no, they're going to AI and they're saying, summarize page 1 to 100 and help me answer the comprehension questions that my teacher gave me. And it's doing that for them. You have it generating inappropriate pictures sometimes. I don't know if any of you read about a story. A kid, innocently, I think he was a fourth grader. He put something in the chat and asked it to make a picture about a book. They were reading a book, and then the teacher, asked them to go into ChatGPT and generate a picture about, how we used to get kids to draw it out. Well, now they're asking them to go online or to ChatGPT. ChatGPT produced an inappropriate picture for a fourth grader, and it was like in the newspapers all over the place. So although it may be innocent, the AI doesn't necessarily know that the person who's writing is a fourth grader. And when they're giving an output, it may not be appropriate for the age level. And then teachers are using it without disclosure, meaning that they're using it for lesson planning. And kids are pushing back now saying, you don't want us to use it, or you want us to disclose how we use it, but you're not. So there's a little infighting going on between students and teachers. And then to me, one of the most alarming things right now are kids using chatbots as companions. So when you think about what they're saying that I'd rather go onto an AI chatbot and tell it all of my personal business, everything that's in my mind, because I can't trust the adults around me. I don't feel comfortable enough, or the adults around me didn't create a safe space where I want to go and tell them my problems. So now you have inappropriate relationships, or students having inappropriate relationships with AI chatbots. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes because it does have some serious side effects that for kids. So we talked about what you see, which is visual. Everybody's seeing it, everybody can acknowledge it. And then these are some of the things that you don't see, but it's happening. And we need to know these because if we don't know it, we don't name it, then um, we can't do anything about it. So let's talk about Sister Fatima. This is the sister who teaches high school humanities. I know in your school, there's this one teacher that everyone loves, and everybody's dying to get your kid into this one particular teacher's class. And this is Sister Fatima at Al Hidayah. So her students were turning in these essays that were too good. The writing was like technically clean. The arguments, they were structured, and she wasn't used to that. Um, but she was suspecting that it was AI, and she started running these essays through an AI detector. But what started to happen is that she realized the AI detectors were not reliable. So it started flagging kids whose work was legitimate as AI use, and the kids who were really using AI, they were not able to properly detect it. So she was noticing that there was some discrepancies in even trying to identify with a cheating detector. And so she didn't know what to trust. So what do? Typically we just kind of ignore it and we just keep going because we don't have time to police it. But what she came to find out was that 7 of 22 of those kids were using AI on every major assignment. And 3 of them were typing the AI responses and copying it onto paper, handwritten, to make it look like they legitimately did the work. One student was using this voice feature at home to dictate the AI response into their own voice memos. And then 2 of these students were using AI to summarize assignments and the readings that they never actually read. So, again, this is one of the things where you don't see it because a lot of times it's happening at home. Now, Brother Youssef, who I said was the principal of the middle school, he didn't see a lot of this either. And Sister Aisha, who is the curriculum developer, she wasn't necessarily seeing this either because a lot of it was hidden and it was happening in the background. But the problem is that when it finally surfaced, 4 months of learning had quietly evaporated. So they thought they were teaching and they thought kids were learning, but they really weren't. They were just, getting past. And so this is what I mean when I'm saying that AI is doing things in your school that you cannot see. And the visible use of what your students are willing to do in front of you, yes, we know what it is, but the hidden use is everything else. And the gap between those two is where most of the damage is happening. So you cannot lead what you cannot see. So this is the big idea here. You cannot lead what you cannot see. So the first job of AI leadership, whether it's from a teacher end or a school leader end, is to take an honest look at the gap between what you think is happening and what is actually happening. And if you skip this step, every policy that you write, every PD that you run, every family communication that you send is going to be based on what you imagine instead of what's real. So just let that sink in for a minute. We have to identify the gaps. So now I want to give you a framework. And the framework is the 5 AI safety risks every Islamic school must address. You cannot solve a problem if you have not named it. So we're going to name it clearly right now. So the 5 are bias, misinformation, age appropriate content, and the erosion of student thinking. They're not theoretical. Each one is showing up in some form or fashion right now in schools like yours all around the world. And what I want to do is walk you through each one with the story from Al Hidayah. And as I go, I want you guys to think about it. You can put it in the chat, and Lisa, if you want to, share with me some of the dialogue, it's fine. Which one do you think is most present at your school? So the first one is privacy. So I don't know if you know this. Some of you may know this, some of you may not know this. But what your staff puts into an AI, large language model, or LLM, that's ChatGPT, that's Claude, that's Perplexity, that's Grok, it is not private. Consumer AI tools, they retain your conversations. And that data is reviewed by humans. And it can be used to train future AI models. And once it's in their systems, you cannot get it back. Sorry. So I want to now we talked about Sister Fatima. I want to bring Brother Yusuf into this now, the middle school principal. So he, as I said before, was in charge of some of the students who are special needs and they have IEPs. And so what he started to do was upload full IEPs into ChatGPT. So I know there's a sister here we spoke a little bit earlier. I think her name was Abir. When it comes to IEPs, what's on the IEP? It is student names, it is their diagnosis, it is their family history, their disability classification. And so all of that goes into this large language model. But what he was getting was so profound and it took hours of work away from him. So he was really excited. But what he didn't know was that every single one of those IEPs is now sitting on OpenAI servers. And it could be reviewed by humans on their content team. It could be used to train future models, but the amount of student data that families are entrusting us with had broken, and he didn't even realize it. So, Brother Yusuf, he didn't do anything malicious. He did exactly what a good principal that was trying to save time would do. He used the tool to help his students, but because no one had told him the privacy implications, he created a serious data exposure and an issue, a potential issue for the school. Because if a parent finds out about this, they can essentially sue the school. So this is the privacy risk. It's not bad intentions. It's good people using tools but without knowing what the tools do with that information. So privacy, we have to know about the privacy risks when it comes to students, their data, and what we're feeding the information to the large language models. The next one is bias. Now, AI is trained on the internet. It took everything that's in the world on the internet and it kind of synthesized it. But if you know what's on the internet, there's a lot of biases. Biases against Muslims, biases against women, biases against non-Western perspectives, against minority groups, and against our whole entire intellectual, spiritual, and religious traditions. So when teachers use AI uncritically, they import those biases right into their classrooms without even knowing. So I'm going to give you an example. There's a teacher at a partner school that we work with, and she asked AI to give 18 medieval historical figures for a research project to their students. So the list came back with 16 Europeans, 2 Asians, and 0 figures from the Islamic Golden Age. So the greatest scholars of the medieval period, the people who literally preserved Greek philosophy and gave us algebra and modern medicine, are missing from a list about from medieval history. So this is what happens when AI is used uncritically, because it doesn't just give bad information, it actively erases our ancestors from our students' education. And it tells our 14-year-olds that the medieval time, the world had no Muslim contributors. It teaches your 16-year-old that science is a Western invention. It tells your students that slide after slide after slide and worksheet after worksheet that they don't belong in the history of human knowledge. And so that's not just bad AI use. It's harmful to the identity formation of every Muslim student that's in your school. And it happens silently, and it happens in worksheets and study guides and AI generated content while everyone else is busy with other things. So bias has to be considered when you're looking at what's being generated. Is it really reflective of what you need it to be reflective of? The third is misinformation. So AI is so confident in its output, it makes you believe that it is correct. So the technical, even though it may not be correct, and the technical term for it is called hallucination. The practical translation is that AI tools, they generate plausible sounding but completely false content. And they do it with absolute confidence and you believe it. Kids believe it. So with Sister Aisha, remember she's the curriculum director at Al Hidayah. She was reviewing a 10th grade research paper and she came across one that looked extraordinary. It had 3 perfectly cited scholarly books, full author names, specific publishers, exact page numbers. And Sister Aisha was very impressed, so impressed that she wanted to add some of those books to the school's library. So when she went to find them, not a single book existed. Can you believe that? The names are fake. The publishers had never published those titles before. The page numbers were invented. AI had fabricated the entire thing. 3 books, complete with believable details, and the student had submitted them as real resources. So that is misinformation. And misinformation with a 10th grader. So now scale that risk to your entire school. AI could fabricate a hadith. AI can produce incorrect Quranic translations. AI has given confidently wrong answers about Islamic history, jurisprudence, and theology. So if a student or a teacher is relying on AI without verification, the school is one slide deck away from teaching something that may not be true. So that's something we have to think about when we're using this. We have to mitigate and monitor misinformation. The risk is not just academic, it's theological, it's religious, it's spiritual. So we have to make sure that that information is verified. The fourth is age inappropriate content. So your filters do not always catch the AI inappropriateness, properly. Image generators can create content that violates. It may not violate other people's traditions and values, but it can violate our traditions and values. And so we need to understand that. So these chatbots can engage in conversations that are not appropriate for any of our students. And AI companion apps, which are really big nowadays, especially for tweens and teens and adults, they are specifically designed to be emotionally engaging with young people. So they've figured out how to engage with them to keep them hooked. And I want to be direct about this because some of the AI companion apps that your middle schoolers and high schoolers are using, they're using them in ways that makes them feel like they have a romantic partnership. Or they're designed to make them feel like they have a best friend, or they're designed to remember everything that a child has ever told them and respond with affection. And this is manipulation. So a parent at one of our partner schools came to one of the principals in tears, and they told the principal that her 12-year-old daughter had been having long conversations with the AI companion app for about 6 months. So the AI, it knew the daughter's names, it knew all her friends' names, it knew all her fears about the parents' marriage. It was offering relationship advice, and it was telling her, that she was beautiful, that she was smart, and it was asking her personal questions about her body and her mother had no idea. So this is a safeguarding risk. And the harsh truth is that some of your students are using these apps, or even your children right now. You probably don't know which one they are, and parents almost certainly do not know. So we're sitting here in this workshop tonight because no one else is going to tell you that this is happening, but I'm here to tell you that this is happening. It's happening. I have a teenager myself, and I have to stay on top of it. So I understand because for something happened. I don't know what happened, but they're not feeling as safe to talk to us about what's happening. And that's something that we're going to have to, visit as educators. All right. And the last risk is the erosion of student thinking. And this is a deep risk because when AI is now doing all the thinking, I think there was another sister out of Texas, Plano. I think we were speaking before we got started. She's an English teacher. We were speaking about what there may have to be a pivot. There was going to be a pivot in how we're giving assignments, and it's because they have this easy access to AI. The AI is now doing the thinking, and students are their learning is stagnating now. Reading, writing, problem solving, reflection are things that kids are not doing as much anymore. And these are not just academic skills; they are developmental skills. They are the muscles that students build when we want them to become thoughtful Muslims and contributing adults. So let's go back to Sister Fatima, the high school humanities teacher. Remember those 7 kids who used AI with every major assignment, and they were getting A's? Well, they lost growth because their essays were just clearly written, the arguments were structured, and the vocabulary was advanced. But the students who turned it in, they're not stronger writers. They're not stronger thinkers. The students who turned it in, they didn't have the opportunity to wrestle with the questions. The work happened, but the learning did not. And when it comes to our religion, Islamic education has always been fundamentally about cultivating the intellect or the aql and the reflective capacity or the tafakkur for every student. And our tradition tells us that seeking knowledge is sacred and the struggle to understand is part of the worship. So when we let the AI do all the struggling for the students, we're not just shortchanging them academically, we're robbing them of the cognitive and the spiritual and the religious development that makes them who Allah created them to be. So I just want you to think about that for a second. So this is a big risk. And a student can get straight A's at your school while becoming progressively weaker as a thinker. And nobody on your staff is probably going to catch it until it's too late. So I congratulate you guys for coming out tonight and learning about this. So I don't want this to be all doom and gloom, but it is a reality. And like I said earlier, we can't do anything about it until we understand it, until we named it. And so we just named the 5 risks. So let's recap. Um, these are the 5 AI safety risks that every Islamic school must address. It's the privacy, it's the bias, it's the misinformation, it's the age-appropriate content, it's the erosion of thinking. And you cannot solve what you have not named. And now we have named them. So what I want you to do is to think about this. Um, What do you think is the most prevalent in your school right now? You can just name the number. One is the privacy, two is the bias, three, misinformation, four, inappropriate content, and five, the erosion of thinking. I got the chat. I got the chat. All right. So I see a lot of it is the erosion of student thinking. I see a little bit of inappropriate content. So it seems like, all right, I see three, misinformation, yes. And I'm thinking it's probably a lot of three. You probably just don't know it just yet. You haven't seen it enough to let it resonate. I do see one, so privacy, yes. I see four and five. Yep, some we won't. That's it. So, but that's if you don't know it, you can't name it, and then we can't do anything about it. So, like I said, I gave you guys a good amount of information about safety, about risk, and I'm hoping that, inshallah, you guys learn something as well, so that you're not putting in student information into ChatGPT or Claude. When you want to put something in, and I'm all for using it to help you work smarter and not harder, just make sure you make the information about the children anonymous. Redact their names and give them a number, and you're just going to have a numbering system. When it comes to bias, think about that as well. Just be reminded that there are biases against us, and we have to be cognizant of that. But the misinformation as well, if we're doing anything where we're trying to show them, we are, the greatest, population, the greatest mankind, just we want to make sure that what they're getting is accurate. So we're going to have to do some fact checking. And with inappropriate content, a lot of times we think it's with pictures, and it can be, but it can be those inappropriate content with chatbots and relationships with students. And with the erosion of thinking, yes, because that is really visible. You can see that because you're getting work from kids that it's not accurate, and you know it. Like I said, the kid is not going up, two or three reading levels in 6 months. It's I mean, maybe, but it's not plausible. All right. So now that I have um went through the risks, now let's talk about some of the safeguards that we can put into place this summer. I'm not going to give you a whole bunch of homework, but if you want to get the school year started off right, we have to move from risk to response. And so I'm going to give you these three concrete safeguards, and every Islamic school can put them in place over this summer. It's not a whole lot of work, it's not a whole lot of homework, but it's something you have to think about, and it's something that you have to do. You have to get a head start on it. I believe that they're doable. They don't require a new budget. They don't require new staff. They don't require, all they require is intention and time. So the safeguard, number one, is you have to have a clear AI use policy. It doesn't have to be a 15-page document. It could be a page or two. The second safeguard is AI literacy expectations by grade band. So AI literacy, our lovely President Trump has kind of mandated that AI literacy has to be taught from kindergarten to grade 12, because we're in this big war with AI with China. And so last April, he came out with that mandate, and now he's mandating the states to kind of put some things into play. And so just know that from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, students are going to have to learn how to use AI. It's not about coding and it's not about programming, but it's about how AI works. And so students are going to have to learn that. And the third safeguard is the family awareness brief or communication. How are we going to communicate what we're doing for our students and our schools? We're going to have to communicate that to them. So these three things, I believe, move you from defense to direction, and from reacting to leading, from worrying about what is happening to the building to the school that you really want. So let's talk about the first safeguard. So this is the clear AI use policy. So what I want you to think about, I know most schools don't have one. And the ones that do have it, I'm quite sure they copied it from some big school district that was pulled from some other kind of template and it's like 45 pages long. That's not what I'm recommending at all. That's not a policy. That is total legal theater. A real AI policy is a working document because you're going to have to change it at least revisit it every 90 days and possibly change it that often as well. Um, because AI is changing so much. But a real AI policy is about 2 to 4 pages, and it's something that your staff and your students can actually see and use. And your policy should answer these questions. So the first question is, what is allowed and what is not allowed? Clear as day. So as a school community, you're going to have to identify for students and for staff what is allowed when it comes to AI and what is not allowed for AI. Which tools can be used at your school and which ones are not approved. And I'm not here to judge what you guys decide, but it needs to be consensus or near consensus. Um, Kids in elementary school, they can't use it at all. Or high school kids, they can only use it for this, but you have to decide what it is. And then what are the tools? Can they use ChatGPT, but they can't use a companion app? They could use this, but they can't use that. You guys have to decide based on your school dynamics what is acceptable and allowed and what is not. The second one is who can use AI. And once you decide who can use it, then on which assignments can it be used for? So let's say if kids have to do research that they can go to AI to get the foundational information. Maybe, that's what you decide a student can use AI for. But how do they disclose it? So how does a student say to a teacher, this was the assignment you gave me, and then I went to AI and this was my prompt and this is what I got. But then this is what I did with the information afterwards. So you have to think about how can a student disclose when and how they used AI. So there has to be a clear statement of expectations for teachers, students, and for staff. So it has to be clear. The third thing is what data must never be shared with AI tools. And that should always be student names, anything dealing with IEPs, family information, health records, specific guidance can never, ever, and I'm just telling you, that has to be in your policy. It can never be shared whatsoever. Um, Grades should never be shared. And like I said, if you want to do something where it's grading, then the policy can say a teacher can upload student assessments or something like that, but it has to be coded. The kid's name cannot be there. So but it has to be laid out. Now, the fourth one is about AI literacy. So, how will AI literacy be taught? Who's going to teach it? At which grade levels is it going to be taught? And with what learning targets? So, you may not have a curriculum or anything, but you have to identify okay, we want to start AI literacy with high school. Okay, so that's grades 9 through 12. Then maybe in February, we'll incorporate grades 6 through 8. So who's going to teach it? Okay, well, maybe the English teacher, or maybe the social studies teacher, or maybe, some teacher. So you want to identify who's going to teach that as well, because now they have to get some training. And you have to identify the grade levels in which students are going to learn this AI literacy. And then what do you want them to know when it comes to AI literacy? The next thing you have to decide on is who decides when situations are unclear, and that's tricky. Is it the grade level teacher? Is it the homeroom teacher or the lead teacher? Is it the principal? Is it the curriculum director? Is it the assistant principal? So you have to have identify a clear person of when situations are unclear. Teachers know who to ask when a gray area shows up. So, for example, you have your policy says they can't use ChatGPT or Claude, but a kid used Perplexity. So now you don't know what to do. So you have to have an identified person that can kind of navigate that gray area for schools. So that's really important. And then what are the consequences for misuse? So by students and by staff, because staff could abuse, AI as well. So you want it spelled out like what's going to happen if there's any kind of misuse or irresponsible use of AI. Um, you have to have it clearly spelled out so it doesn't have to be improvised, because what you don't want to happen is that you have a situation and you don't know what to do, and then either you overpunish, you underpunish, or it's uneven, and then your staff or students will complain about that. And then you have to have when the policy is going to be reviewed. And that's important because, as I said earlier, AI changes monthly. It actually changes every day. And but your policies have to be reviewed, I would say, every 60 to 90 days, because something is going to be new. There's going to be something that you're going to have to account for. So my recommendation is to have a policy where it's reviewed every 60 to 90 days. Even if you don't change it, we still got to review it. There needs to be a committee of some sort to come together to look at it. And I believe that these policies should be drafted in June or July. It could be refined in August. But it needs to be communicated to families and students when your school year starts. So those of you who are in the South, it would have to be in August. Those of you who in the rest of the country, it would be September. But you need to be able to do that. So when you open the school year, it is clear for everyone. And this, if you do nothing else, if you don't do it, you're going to, I believe, dramatically reduce your schools. Or you're going, if you do it, it's going to reduce the your school's risk exposure. If you do nothing, you're going to spend an unnecessary amount of time trying to keep putting a band-aid on issues. So my recommendation for schools is to try to put together this clear AI use policy. Like I said, even if you start with one page, even though I'm recommending 2 to 4 pages, just have something and you can always build from it. Now, the next one is AI literacy. So this is the expectation. So you have to decide, but I'm quite sure a lot of guidance is probably going to come out over the summer through the states. And that's going to be what should every student in your school learn about AI by the end of the school year. I don't believe it requires a new course. I don't believe it requires a new curriculum, but I do think it requires a clear statement that the leadership um, has established and the teachers know about it. And so I'm just going to give you some examples of what it could look like across grade bands. So from K to 2, that's a grade band. We want kids to know by the end of the year that AI is a tool and it's not a person. We use it carefully and with the help of grown-ups. We know that it has the opportunity to listen and hear and respond. Maybe that's all you want kids to know from grades K to 2. For grades 3 to 5, you may want them to start to understand that AI can make mistakes. So you want to kind of put into their minds that we always have to check its work and we need to do our own thinking first. For grades 6 to 8, which is middle school, and they're a little bit older and a little bit more sophisticated, you want to say AI, we want them to know that AI cannot replace our thinking. And we know how to tell the difference between AI work and our own work, and we're going to either leverage AI to help us, do work or whatever it is. But we need to use it honestly and then disclose when we use it. So that may be something that you want your middle schoolers to come away with knowing. And for grades 9 through 12, you may want them to think or know and come away with that AI is a powerful tool, but our values and our reasoning and our character must lead first. We know AI strengths and its limits, and we're trying to protect our own intellectual growth. So that could be something that is for your whole entire high schooler. So what I gave you is starting language. You can adapt them to your own school's voice and your own dynamics, but the principle is still the same, that every student leaves your school each year more AI literate than when they came in, not less critical, more critical. And this safeguard takes one meeting with teachers and leadership. And the hard work is the conviction really behind it. So once the teachers are aligned, you have a school where every grade band is reinforcing the same message, but it has to be clear, it has to be written, it has to be agreed upon. And then the last safeguard is the family awareness brief. And this is really like something that's overlooked, but it's the one that pays back the most. It's a one pager. It can have 5 parts, but it's a communication that's sent to families before school start. Every family in your school should know what AI is going to look like at your school, and you want them to hand in what they can do at home. And so, part one to this communication is to just acknowledge that AI is here. You want the parents to know, like, we as a school acknowledge that AI is here. We're not going to pretend it doesn't exist, and you got to name it directly. The second part is to state your school's position on AI. So you're going to tell them succinctly exactly what you've done. We have a policy, we're teaching it, we're taking this seriously. The third part is to warn families about AI chatbot companions. You have to be direct. You have to warn them about what is out there that can be harmful that they don't see either. You can tell them what to watch out for. You can tell them why it matters from an Islamic parenting lens, but you have to be, I believe, overt about how to protect children, especially their children, when it comes to AI. Part four is to give families one specific thing to do at home. So, a conversation prompt, a guideline, something concrete enough that any parent could implement it. So, you want to put that in as well. You don't have to give them a whole lot, but you give them something that they can take away and read it and say, okay, I can do this tonight, or I can do this every night. And then part five, which is, a winner, is to have an open door, like provide a clear contact, invite questions, not complaints. You want them to, you want them to feel just as comfortable as well, voicing, like what are their thoughts, or, so you want to have an opportunity to say, you're not alone in this. The school is here. We're here to help. We welcome, conversations. We value your feedback, your understanding, and so you kind of want to put all that together. But I think the acknowledging that AI is here, stating what the position is, and you can even say, look, we have a policy. Feel free, it's on our website to look at it. Just know we're going to review it every 60 to 90 days. We welcome your input, in terms of when we're trying to put this together. So I believe that this is one of the simplest documents that you could ever write for right now. But because what it does is three things at once. It positions your school as ahead of the curve. It protects students at home, not just at school, and it builds trust with the families who are already worried about AI and didn't know who to ask or what to say. And so I believe that, Sister Lisa, we're going to give them, there's a companion workbook to this that I put together for you guys. And I believe you're going to get an email with this recording, and you're going to get the workbook companion. And what I have included in it is a sample template letter that you can adapt to your own school situation. You can open it and then, change the school name. You can, you have, this brief, available that you could, manipulate how you want. But nevertheless, you do have something that you can use to help guide you through this. So, what I want to do right now, I need you guys to commit. So I know I spoke a lot and I know my voice is going in and out. And I know I gave you a lot of information, but I needed you guys to be aware of where we were at with things. Some of you may have known this, others may not have known this, but now we all know. And I've also given you a playbook by which you can go and try to start to map out something to keep your school clear and safe. And so you have three safeguards. You don't need to do all of them at once. You just need to commit to one. So I want you to think about the safeguard that matters most for your school right now. And then I want you to pick a start date. And then I want you to drop it in the chat, please. Think about the three safeguards that I thought about. What is the most pressing for you right now? And then I want you to commit to a date where you're going to start to put something together around it. I'm going to see if I can access back this chat. All right, I see Fatima. She said August 30th. Yep, I want you to pick a safeguard. Pick one of them. 8-3. I'm gonna think that's August. July 15th and the first one. Very good. August 25th. AI use that definitely. I think to me, that's the most important one. Who can use it? How can they use it? I think that's more important than, even if you don't tell the families, you can always tell the families. But you got to think of one thing, privacy, safeguard, AI policy. I love it. July 30th. And it's something, and even if you're a teacher, I think that you can bring this back to your school leadership. If even if your school's leaders are not here, you can bring it back to them and say, look, I think this is something that we need to address as a school. It would be best if we can do it as a committee. But if the leadership decides that they want to do it, sometimes you don't have control over those things. But nevertheless, you gave the information to the right people. So inshallah, I like June 15th. I like that, Aliyah Harris. June 15th. Yes. August 10th. Okay, I like it. I like it. So, like I said, you can just start with one. Some of you may be a little bit more ambitious and can do all three. That's fine. But you should have at least one. Yes, there will be a recording of the webinar. Yes, indeed. All right. So here's the truth about safeguards. Safeguards, they protect your school. They are necessary. They are not optional. But safeguards alone do not move your school forward. Safeguards, they keep you out of trouble, but it's vision that is what takes you somewhere worth going. So I believe that the leaders who win in the next 2 years, especially in Islamic schools, are the ones, they're not the ones necessarily with the best AI policy, but I believe they are the ones who will use the safety conversation as a starting point for building real vision. A vision is something that names what AI will do for their students. A vision is something that names what AI will never replace in their schools. A vision that's grounded in Islamic values and morals that they can take to their school boards, they can take to their families, they can take to their teachers with confidence. So tonight, what we just did is the safety work. Um, but there is more work that can and needs to be done. But I do understand that schools are at different paths. And the next conversation that needs to take place is after you establish this is vision work. So, so those of you who are school leaders, Sister Lisa, she mentioned it earlier in the opening that we are doing I'm in collaboration with Isla, I'm doing a professional learning community through the month of July. There's, I think, 5 weeks in July, so I'm doing 5 weeks. And it's called Building Your AI School Vision. And it's grounded in a framework that I have called Islamic Intelligence by Design. And it's for specifically for Islamic school leaders who are ready to do this work. So some of you may have already started this, or you know that you need to go to the next level. And so in 5 weeks, I'm going to meet with a small cohort of Islamic school leaders. And together, inshallah, we're going to build a 1 year AI vision for their school. And by the end of week 5, you're going to walk out with a board ready document, something that you can give to your school boards, something that you can give to your families, something that you can give to your teachers, and even your students. And it's not going to be a draft, it's going to be a real vision document. And it's grounded in our values as Muslims that it's not going to be theory. This is a pure implementation PLC. We'll use my framework, which I developed for Islamic schools, and we're going to work through each school's specific situation because schools have different situations. And we're going to work together to hold each other accountable for like actually building something and not just talking about building something. We're going to build something. And I believe, Sister Lisa, the investment is really modest. And I believe that ISLA members, they get, the membership rate. So I'm just putting it out there that if tonight resonated with you, the PLC may be a next step for your school. And I believe that she has the registration info in the chat. And I think the link will also be in the follow-up email. So don't wait till next week. Schools that wait themselves into a corner. I always believe that. And schools that move, I believe, are the ones that lead. So what I want to do is I'll take some questions because I know there's a lot of questions. So I wanted to leave like a half hour for questions. So I wanted to say before I stop my presentation, thank you. I'll see many of you in July, inshallah. I have a QR code here if you want to connect with me. I know, some schools may want to reach out to me to do, additional work or more work that's specific to their particular situation. So you can scan the QR code. I'll leave it up for another second or so. But I want you to get your questions ready if I didn't answer it. I hope that a lot of your questions were answered, but then I also know that because this is new, this is and it's real for a lot of people. Questions are probably going to surface and probably extend through past my presentation. So thank you, all of you, for joining me tonight and willing to learn about this, willing to do the work that needs to be done. But I want to leave you with this. We need to be the leaders in this. We should not be the ones that are receiving what someone else did. We need to be leading with this as Muslims for our students, for our schools, for our community. And we need to learn these tools and learn how we can benefit the Muslim Ummah and to learn how to use it for good, inshallah. So with that, I will end. I will stop sharing and then we'll open it for any questions.
So yes, thank you so much, Dr. Jamila. So if anybody would like to raise their hand, put their question in the chat. I know there was many questions at the beginning. I know Dr. Jamila touched on, I think, much of that, but maybe not enough for everybody. So please, you can use to raise your hand. If you don't see that, if that's difficult, you can unmute. So make sure we are able to listen to everybody. So try not to talk over each other. So feel free. Okay. And if there's any technical issues with registration, that's my job. I'll look on the back end. So I see a couple of notes on that. I will figure out what's going on. So give me a second. And for the early bird discount, you don't actually have to do anything. If you're registering now, you automatically get that discount. Maybe that would be a way to say it. It's already, you don't have to do a promo or anything. That our system is set up to give you an early bird through June 22nd. So
no questions?
I don't know if you want to address any of the ones from the beginning.
See if I could.
How can I improve my classroom with AI? I don't know if there's any.
So I'm gonna need you to be real specific for that one, but I can give a gist of it. What you want to do, and I know it's the end of the school year or the summer for other teachers, but when you want to improve your classroom, is it classroom management? Is it lesson planning? Is it engagement? Is it um communication? So what I would recommend is you can leverage AI for this and you can say exactly that. I would say, reverse engineer your prompts. Just say, I'm a teacher. I teach sixth grade, mathematics. I find that my students are, I have this class that's right after lunch and they're always rowdy. I want to I find that I need to do have a different type or different approach for these students after lunch. I need you to help me design activities that is going to allow for engagement where kids can move around because, it takes some time to settle and see what it produces. Check, try it out and then say, okay, I did that. I noticed that, the kids are, um, they like it, they enjoy coming after lunch now. They don't seem bored. So now I want to take this, I want to make it a framework. And I want to make my lessons, when I think about the lessons, I'm going to start teaching something that's going to be really difficult for them. So give me, 3 different activities that kids can do, to learn this difficult concept. So you could prompt your AI based on an issue that you're having, and you just kind of like reverse engineer it. Instead of saying, oh, just give me a lesson plan to do X, Y, and Z, talk it through your problem. I find that to be, most effective. Just kind of talk through what you're trying to accomplish. And you can also tell it, ask me questions, to help better create or generate, these lesson plans. So it may say, well, tell me about how many kids are reading here, how many kids are doing this, or how many kids are, English language learners, or how many kids are off task, or, they may, give you some work to do as well to try to make the best lessons or, opportunities. I know I work with the school and we looked at discipline. And we thought to take an Islamic approach to discipline. So instead of just, we said, okay, we're gonna, if we see a kid act up, we're going to redirect them. That was going to be the first step. And when we tried to redirect them, I need you to give me talking scripts to say to my students so that I don't come off as disrespectful to them. Because you know how kids are. They demand respect. They won't give you respect until you give them respect. But we asked it to script out some speaking scripts, talking points to kids when you're trying to redirect them. But then we took it a step further and said, okay, they're all in Islamic schools. So why don't we try to ensure that in the redirection that we're bringing them back to the religion. So, it gave us a bunch of things like, oh, the best of you are the ones who listen to those with authority, things like that. So you can also train it to give you things that is also have an Islamic focus as well. So I hope the sister whoever or the brother whoever asked that, I hope I was able to answer that question.
And yes, and if you were the one asking that question in the beginning, please feel free to unmute or ask if you need better. The other question, it was, and I think you just addressed it a little bit, but any other tips for how to make it more productive and useful for the students? I don't know if you want to expand on that or that.
Well, I think that's also it's going to be specific to, what your
Yeah.
situation is. When you're saying productive, I'm not sure what productive necessarily means. I don't know the grade level. I don't know the content area. But what I'm thinking, you want to make sure that when we're thinking about leveraging AI, you want to make sure that you are legitimately trying to meet the needs of all your students, and they all have different needs. So if you can think about that and identify that, and when you're asking it to generate like activities and lessons, you want to think about all of the students that are in your class. I have two, they just can't stop talking. What kind of activities can I give them that will like not drive myself crazy? Just talk to it, like someone trying to get help with um you'll find that sometimes kids don't do certain things because it could be over their level and you don't know it. So you may need things broken down into smaller steps, and everybody may not need that. And so you realize that maybe you're having an issue with classroom management because you simplify something too much and other kids didn't need it, and now they're talking to each other and just kind of spiraling out of control. So you want to think about the different groups that you have in your class and utilize that information when you're trying to create activities and assignments, for your students, or even, like I said, dealing with discipline. I know, this kid, his parents may be going through a divorce, so he kind of like, just sits there and he's like, he doesn't speak. What kind of ways can I, engage this kid so that he can, speak? And I know, that he's verbal. So those, different ways. Like I said, I don't know the specific question about, oh, I see a sister wrote here. Can we use AI for grading and correction? Yes, you can. You just have to do what I told you to do. Kind of have to like write out the name or redact the name. And you can say, okay, this is my assignment, this is the rubric, or this is the grading criteria, and these are my students' work. So either you can upload it, you can take pictures of it, and you can say, based on this rubric or this grading criteria, I need you to grade these students' papers or correct their math or whatever it is, and then I need you to identify because just don't have it graded because you want it to identify strengths and weaknesses, especially if they're not at a proficient level, if they didn't show proficiency in the activity. And then you can say, give me three conference or three speaking points that I can work with on a kid to get them to a proficient level. So you don't want to just say, oh, just grade it. You want it to also give you feedback so that you can help the student. And unless the kid got 100, it can also say for each kid, tell me how they can, how they could perform, a little bit better. And then it allows to give you conferencing notes. So when you meet with the kid, you can say, look, okay, you were able to do, A, B, and C, but I saw you struggled with D, E, and F. And then hopefully they'll give you the right speaking points and it'll say, okay, so where did you get stuck here? Or what do you think you need to do? All right, so now I want you to go back. Now that we've identified, go back now and do D, E, and F over, but just change this and then C. And then, and then you could say, give me, additional like practice questions or whatever, a different prompt or a different, thing so that they can show that they, improved or not. So definitely you can use AI for grading, you can do it for correction. I love it for feedback, especially when you have a lot of kids, it can help, but you have to have the grading um, criteria. AI detectors are not, and it's all coming out now. It is not accurate. They flag, even myself sometimes. As an adult, I write a newsletter every week in LinkedIn, and it's my words, and it tells me sometimes that it detected AI. I'm like, no way. So there's a lot of information out there that these AI detectors are not really good. They're inconsistent. They're flagging things that are really people's work and not flagging when AI was really used. So um, I wouldn't depend on AI detectors. My recommendation is for you guys to take your old assignments and see how you can give either redesign it or create new activities and assignments where kids have to surface their thinking. Like the process has to be a part of it. That when they have to make decisions, why did they make decisions? Or take it back to something that was done in the classroom. I wouldn't depend on, just giving essays and things like that to kids and then using an AI detector. I see I skipped over one. We've been working on an AI policy, so this has been helpful. I will try to okay, inshallah. May Allah make it easy, for you guys. I know it's new, it's a lot of work. And it's like a things you don't know, and things kind of surface and come out, in bizarre ways. But I'm hoping that the information was valuable, especially on the things that you can't see. Um, and we're going to end up learning more about it because, kids are a little bit, probably in some instances, more sophisticated than us. It takes us a longer time to catch up to them. But we still have to, just, be proactive and think about the ways they can be using this behind our back. Lisa, was there any other question that I missed?
There's a question about, are these AI detector tools accurate?
No, I just
And
answered that one. I just answered
oh,
that one.
okay.
I was telling her they may have to, do different types of assignments instead of using the AI detectors.
And earlier there was a question, okay. On the question in terms of registration for the PLC, it's if your school is a member of ISLA, then everybody attached to that school would get the member discounted rate. If that makes sense. Or if you're an individual ISLA member, you would also get a member discount. So both ways. For questions earlier, I guess there's some questions from leaders like how if there's any tips to ethically use AI that they can have their educators use to lower the workload. I guess probably inefficiencies and stuff.
Yes. There's tons of ways. One of the things I love doing is calendaring. Like, for example, I'm quite sure though people already or schools probably already made the school calendars for the next school year. What I like to do is take the old calendar and upload it into AI and then say, okay, I need you to do the next one for the next school year, include the major holidays, if your school are closed on those holidays or not. And then, consider, when Ramadan is and the Eid and, whatever the situation of your school is. And then what I like to do once it does that, I say, give me a beginning day, give me an end day. And then I start telling it to, oh, I have to do, 10 events for students. Like we got to do 10 events that will generate a little bit of money, like some fundraising. So give me 10. Oh, it'll start listing, oh, you're gonna do a chocolate day and you're gonna do a this day and this kind of fundraiser and that. And I'll say, okay, make sure there's some that's during the school day, some that's after, someone's on a weekend. And it can do that for you. Instead of you trying to wrap your brain around it, oh, I have to do 10 family events. Let it decide for you, and say, I need it to be Islamically based. And then there'll be, Sira week, or there will be, oh, we're gonna do an iftar. And so you can kind of challenge it and then let it tell you the best days in your calendar to do it. because they already have your calendar. And then you say, oh, well, my state mandates that I have to do 10 fire drills or evacuation drills. Put them in as well and schedule them throughout the school year. I have to do lockdown drills. So anything that you need to put into a school calendar, and this doesn't have to be forward facing, like this could be internal. You can ask your AI to kind of put together a real comprehensive like school calendar for the next year. It can also do work on your master schedule. If you have a master schedule, and let's say, like if you're a newer school, every year you're adding a grade. So you say, okay, this is my master schedule for this year. We have to take in consideration. I think there was a school here that said they were in their third year. So now you have the fourth year. We need to add a fourth grade now. And so we need a master schedule where kids are taking, 5 periods a week of English and 5 periods a week of math and 2 periods a week of science, and they have to get 7 periods of Quran and Arabic or something like that. You can ask it to map out a master schedule and add another grade. So that helps with workflow. You can put data in. For example, I know a lot of schools probably don't do their own states testing. They probably do like a MAPS or a some other kind of assessment. Download the data and let it disaggregate it for you and say, look, I need to know grade by grade, how did these kids do on, and then what based on like what they didn't do well and like what should be our plan of action. What should be a goal, and you don't have to take it for what it's saying 100%. It just gives you ideas, and and the one thing that we're realizing, judgment still has to come into play. That is the number one thing because AI, as I said, hallucinates a lot. You still have to make a judgment call. Is this right? Is this right for our school? So yes, you can take a whole lot of data, and that's what it's really good at, taking that data. You guys probably don't have like the cutting issues like they do in public school because a lot of times when parents pay, the kids are usually in school. But you have in public school, because my husband works in public school, kids, and he works in high school. So they just aggregate their data a lot and they realize, oh, this kid is absent. These kids are absent on Mondays and Fridays. So then you will ask it to give like activities like that would lure a kid back into school, on a Monday or a Friday, and that's how they get their attendance up. Or, I mean, this may not be the most appropriate thing, but they also found out how kids were having relationships with each other about how they were absent on the same days. They looked and told it to disaggregate it and look at who's absent, what two kids are absent on the same days all the time. So there's ways to uncover things, and the good thing about AI is that it can go through a large amount of data in a little bit of time. You can use, let's say you can take that data, let's say you need to present it to your board, and you can say, give me speaking notes on how I can present this in a very clear and concise manner to my board so that they understand, and then what the implications are, and how the school is going to solve it, as opposed to the board trying to tell the school how to solve it, maybe being ahead of it, ahead of the game. So like I said, there's different ways. Also, how to communicate. You want to I tell these stories about like how, there's an incident that happens at school and you need to communicate that same incident, but to 3 or 4 different people. You can take the same incident and say, oh, craft a email to a parent who's usually like belligerent, but say it in a way where, it's really not the school's fault. Then you can say, take this same situation and, um, send it to the nurse so that the nurse only gets the information that they need. And then you also want to send it to, the teachers involved so they know exactly what happened because maybe the situation happened at lunch. So you can take a situation and have AI create communications for you that are real specific to roles as well. I see somebody ask, what tool do you recommend for general overall use? So Claude has an edge right now on ChatGPT, but they're all fighting one another. As soon as one comes out with something, someone comes out with another. Um, I think if you're not doing a whole lot of sophisticated work that needs programming, just use the ChatGPT. I think it's sufficient, but what I will, you can go in and give it instructions. And I would say put the instructions in that they have to double check their work before they give it to you and check any reference or check any if they're quoting something, and that they have to give you a score of the output. And I know I have it do that to me, and it'll tell me, oh, based on this, it's a 10 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. If it's a 7 out of 10, I'm like, no, no, go back and find out, I need you to get me accurate information. So you can program it to give you to the best of its ability more highly reliable information, but you have to go into the settings and you have to tell it to do that. Claude, I think is good. Like if you're doing things that require graphics, you want to put together like reports, like really nice reports. You want to put together um, if you want to like code something out, maybe you want to do something a little bit more sophisticated with your master schedule. Um, you may want to go to Claude, but if you're really just using it to like help you, get through, the school year, I would just stick with Chat GPT. And if you're not using it like every day, I wouldn't even pay for it. But if you're using it, every day where you're gonna, bypass, they're gonna block you from, because you used it too many times or too many queries, then just get the $20 a month. But like I said, there's different ways that you could utilize it, to decrease your workflow. I know it can be used for good and I know it can be used for evil as well, but we have to just try to remember to use it for good and to benefit, our children because it's difficult, to when you have, all of these kids in the class and some of them don't know English and you're trying to teach these kids, some of them have, they're undiagnosed, but they have disabilities, and then you have these smart kids and you're trying to like manage all of that in the class. It's difficult. And I would leverage the AI to help me with that. As a school leader, definitely. Communications, I would do it with operations as much as possible, looking at my data. And even for school leaders, you could the number one thing that you guys do after everything else is supposed to be observations. And you can use AI um to as long as like some schools, I hope you have if you don't, you can use AI to make like a classroom observation rubric. Like, what are you looking for when you go into a classroom? And just make sure everybody is aware of it. And then what you can take your phone and you can record it. Like, let's say, for example, you don't have time to like write it out. As soon as you step out of that classroom, you can grab your phone and you can say, I observed Sister Fatima, from 10:30 to 11:30 in her, her 10th grade humanities class. When I walked in, the kids were doing this, she was there, there was a kid sleeping in the background, da, 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 whatever it is, it will transcribe it and you can feed that into your AI and you can say, here's my rubric based on what I told you, help me craft a observation report. And it'll say, and I if like if it's and it'll say, ask me questions if you don't know. And it can say, well, did she, did she bring the lesson to a closure? Something like that they may say, and then it can write it up for you. I can I so okay. I can create a certificate. I have no problem with that. I don't know if Isla, will create one, but
Yeah, for
I could.
any Yeah, for the PLCs, yes, for people that are asking. As long as you do the work requested by the instructor and
Yeah.
attend the classes, we do no, multiple PLCs. Every instructor is a little bit different. So as long as you do the work that says Dr. Jamila requires, and you, most importantly, complete the feedback survey because that's how we get your
Yeah.
accurate name and email.
Yeah.
We've had problems in the past with people, they misspell their names, they misspell their emails and we can't get it to you if you don't give us the right information. So, but yes, anybody who registers and participates actively in the course and does the work will get a certificate of participation.
All right, inshallah.
So I know we've got a
And then I
couple
think
more minutes for questions if
yeah, I
anybody else
see
has a.
Camilla. Hi, Kim. Assalamu alaikum, Camilla. What would I use for calendar and schedule? You can use something as simple as Chat GPT. You don't, I mean, if you're only comfortable with Chat GPT, stay with it. I wouldn't go to other large language models unless you're doing like I think really more sophisticated work that requires, like I said, a little bit of programming, or you're trying to develop a website or a landing page or something. I would use Claude for that. But if you're trying to do a calendar and a schedule, it's more than capable of doing that for you. Sister Anam, I use a paid version of all my AIs. I think I'm using the $200 version for Claude, but I do a lot of heavy work. I do a lot of heavy work. And I'm like, even like, I even had to buy a whole new computer, a Mac Mini for open cloth. So it's a lot. So this is nothing that schools really need. But I'm just saying the level of the work that I'm doing with AI, it requires a whole lot, and it requires a lot of subscriptions. But my goal is hopefully, inshallah, one day I won't need as much. Because we're learning. I'm trying to also help schools create agents to do certain things, but I know that's a different conversation. Oh yes, Sister Sam, is that Sister? Yes, Sister Sam. Yes, you can definitely use it to modify the curriculum for certain students. So if you already have a curriculum, but this is what I'm gonna challenge you on. You need to identify who's in your class. You need to say, okay, I have, four kids that are like this. I have four kids, even if they're like undiagnosed. Like I have four kids that need to wear glasses, but they can't see. I have five kids that need, to be. I know they can't read at the grade level, but I haven't tested them yet. So I need it to be, broken down. Whatever it is, you have to do it. So if you have Samina, okay, sorry. If you have a curriculum, you can upload it and say, look, for every module or for every chapter or for every part, I need you to put in differentiated activities for, kids who are learning English or kids who have disabilities or kids who, you know, can't sit still. You have those kids as well. Kids who don't have, they are easily distracted. I would put that all in because what it's going to allow you to do, and even if if you're not accustomed to doing it, the issue could be that once kids see it, if you haven't been doing it, they're like, oh, this kid is this, or oh, this kid is dumb, or all this. So you can also ask it to give me the proper script or the proper explanation to tell kids this is what our classroom is going to look like, why there's changes, which we're trying to meet the needs of everyone, whatever it is. Tell it to give you a script that kids will understand why one group of kids or this kid is getting something different. They don't need to know why they're getting it, but that kids are no kid is going to have the same activity or assignment. Kids are going to get it based on their strengths and weaknesses. And you can also ask it to give you those talking points to kids. And you can ask it to say for whatever grade it is as well. Because how you speak, to second graders is completely different how you speak to 10th graders. Um, so Sister Embreen is asking, yes, you should, but then, you should definitely get some AI training over the summer. I mean, you can start off with something as simple as YouTube. Don't pay for anything just yet because unless you know exactly what you want to do, I would start by saying I have a YouTube page actually. If you click on and I have over 400 videos on everything in AI and education. Start with my page if you want to learn how to do it. It goes back over a year. And I have things for school counselors, I have it for parents, I have it for teachers, I have it for school leaders, I have it for teachers who teach English learners, I have it for teachers who teach special educators. Let me put it in the chat.
Is this a website or is it a
No,
YouTube
this is
channel?
this is I have a website, but this is my YouTube page, and I only do shorts. I don't do any more than 3 minutes because I value people's time. Creative.
Great, thank you.
That is my, when you go to YouTube, just type it in. It's an @ sign. Creative Transformations 1. So I would say start with the videos and then you can figure out what how the way you want to, approach it. And then you can decide if you want to pay for something. But I would have those conversations with, teachers with leaders, leaders with teachers so that the money's being spent in the ways that, is going to be a benefit. But there's a lot out there so far right now that you can get on YouTube. I will say that. But the work that I do with schools, it's they may feel that they want this to be specific to what their particular situation is. All right, thank you guys for everything. I think we have reached our time. So, like I said, I gave you a way you can connect with me at all times. I'm on every single social media. The best way to get me is through LinkedIn. But I encourage you guys to go to my YouTube page, and if you can't find me anywhere else, you can write me on YouTube. I usually write back. So, inshallah, I ask that Allah, bless us in our endeavors and how we move forward, and that He keep us, on the right path of how we utilize this for good, inshallah. Oh,
Well,
thank you,
thank you
Lisa.
so much, Dr. Jamila. I put her YouTube link in the chat if you want to grab that. Welcome. If you're interested in the PLC, please check it out. And again, if you didn't catch it, this recording, as well as the resource booklet that Dr. Jamila has shared, will be shared to everybody by early next week. It may be sooner. I just don't want to overpromise and it doesn't happen. My colleague, I don't want to tell her to do something and she's got other plans. So inshallah, she'll get it out as soon as possible. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you at future ISLA events. And for those of you who are able to join Dr. Jamila next month, it'll be a great course, inshallah. So thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Welcome, thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
All right,
Good
assalamu
night.
alaikum.
Bye-bye.